dancing evolved in a tribe that was just about to go to war, and they were tense. And if they danced around the fire and yelled and screamed, they danced around the fire and relieved that tension before they got into battle. Soldiers, when they march, sing. The reason for that is to take their mind off, how's my wife doing? I wonder what's happening at home with my kids. But if you get them singing, like the Marines sing, blood makes the grass grow. Take their attention away from home, you're better off. And if you can involve them in little games, in dancing, in sports, that takes the attention away from social problems. Boxing, wrestling, sports, in the future, there'll be nobody punching one another because that damages the brain. And nobody seems to give a damn except that they like that. A ballet dancer in later years will have a lot of trouble with her ankles. You know, what they do is not good for the body, and they rehearse long hours, and they damage their body because we have emphasized ballet. We like it. Now, if you consider ancient Rome, where they used to feed Christians to lions, and kids would say to their daddy, can we come next week to see Christians being fed to lions? And daddy might say, if you behave yourself. Now, these kids are not mentally ill. They're brought up in a society that's warped. Our society is warped. It's hard for me to talk about the things that normal people have come to like. Do you understand what I mean? It's like walking over to an Indian and say, what are you dancing around the fire with feathered hat? That's ridiculous. The Indian doesn't say, gee, thanks for telling me that. I never thought of it that way. Don't you see? People can no longer step out of their culture by a lecture or a single movie. It just takes a long time to learn where these things came from, how they emerged, how they evolved. Now, putting a decoration through your ear, piercing your ear, let something dangle from your ear. If a person came from another planet, if you had a watch on your wrist, he might say, what is that? You say, well, I can't keep accurate time where this machine helps me keep time. You say, well, what's those glass things in front of your eyes, what appear to be transparent? You say, well, I'm losing my eyesight, or I can't read, or I can't see things far away, and this helps me. Or what's that thing hanging from your wife's ears? Oh, that's decoration, that's ornament. Yes, but what is it? You see what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And it's the same as a primitive person painting their face in different colors to keep evil spirits away. Now, they say that with a straight face.
Yeah.
You can't tell them what they're doing is primitive, backwards.
You know, being an individual is not how many rings you have through your nose or what color your hair is or if your hair stands straight up or, you know, the clothing that you wear. It's how you think. And you have to think about what all these different fashions are for, too. A lot of people make a lot of money by changing fashions every year. So it's good to consider the motive of all these things.
Same with automobiles. They hang a tail fin on or a strip of chromium. This is all artificial. I would spend all that money on safety devices instead of a tail fin. Like if you build a monument to veterans, the veterans think that's a good thing. I think it's a terrible idea. If you have any surplus money for monuments, give it to the Veterans Hospital and build MRI machines and X-ray machines. Build what is needed in the hospital to help veterans, not a monument.
You know, in the old days, you didn't have cameras and things like that, so people painted portraits of one another, and they were pretty accurate, and they were pretty good at one time. But today we have the camera. We can even do X-rays right through people, too, if you want to see what they look like. But you don't need people to draw portraits of them anymore. The camera does a better job in many instances.
So you're
but you
saying
can't
that
superimpose that because people are brought up with art appreciation. There's a lot of parasitic beliefs we have that will vanish in the future. I don't expect people to turn around at one of my lectures, but I do hope they'll think about it.
you're saying to a degree at somewhat that they're irrelevant, but yet you decided that in the future there are still going to be centers with cameras and musical instruments and all the equipment that someone would need to perform these sort of visual and
Yes, that's true.
So,
that's during the transition.
Oh, during the transition.
Yes, you need all those things as normal people, so-called normal, A normal Nazi accepts a Nazi system. A normal Frenchman accepts France. A normal headhunter accepts headhunting.
So you're saying eventually we won't need those centers anymore.
We will have new forms, new art forms. I'm using the word art because that's what people associate it with.
Okay.
But in the future, we'll have new art forms. I'll tell you a little bit about what that means. New art forms means that furniture will not be designed by artists or designers. Furniture will be designed by anatomists and physiologists to conform with the human body. As you lean forward, the chair helps you get out. The chair adjusts itself to the pressures rather than you moving on a chair all the time to change the pressure points. The chair will move. That's what I mean by anatomist. Dinnerware will be designed by people that study the physiological shape of the human body, and the forks and knives will be designed to best accommodate human attributes. Art was a great thing 100 years ago, where people didn't have any ideas at all, so they just made, like a lot of people, buy a Kennedy rocker. It's the most uncomfortable chair in the world, a Kennedy rocker. But Kennedy had one, and he was an important man, so people do things unsane. Unsane means not the best way for the human body. It's going to take a lot of movies, a lot of education. You can't practice medicine without going to a medical environment. First, you have to go to medical school. If you want to be an engineer, you have to go to engineering school. You have to go to an engineering environment. We are not brought up that way today. So we have thousands of problems and generate more problems as we invent more and more laws. Laws do not deal with problems. They're attempts at a quick fix, but they don't deal with the problem. We have to eradicate the conditions that produce serial killers. In the future, I think all this was transitional, the golf courses, the tennis courts. That's all transitional. You can't suddenly put a new society down and outlaw the patterns that people have been conditioned to.
Yeah.
They have to outgrow that through knowledge and give it up.
Yeah, there'd be churches in the city too. You can't ban anything, otherwise it goes underground. It doesn't work.
Think about how you perceive the world through the five senses, how you hear, how you see, how you move your muscles, how you are an environment creation, how easily you can be influenced. Think of the atoms and the greatness of the universe. Now, rethink this talent. Talent is a subjective beauty. Let's enjoy it without transform it into a scale of values or a competition.